Welcome to today's Life Coach Pod. I'm so excited to be here. It is a Wednesday, and I have a great guest today who's going to talk about motivating teenagers. So if you're a teenager, you need to turn this off now because we're going to talk about you. No, that won't be the first time, won't be the last. Let me catch everybody up. It is Wednesday, April 15th. Old school, used to be tax day. And if you're paying taxes today, good for you. You're a good citizen. Look what that's getting you. That's maybe going to get you your stimulus check, so that's good. For the rest of us, taxes due dates have been moved to July, but you need to check your state tax due dates. In California, we've been extended, but please check your local tax office to see what your state taxes are due. That said, they can't get blood out of a turnip, right? How many of us are employed? How many aren't? So as we move through, if you're doing stay at home, it's March 46th. Didn't know that the March could last this long, but it has. And we have cool guests coming up after today. We have Laurel Sutton, who's finally going to get on the show because I had to push her out, poor thing. She'll be here tomorrow to talk about what's in a name. If you ever wondered why the name Apple has a lot of power, because they've dumped a lot of cash into it. But can you imagine the first day that Steve Jobs said we're going to name the company Apple, and everybody looked at him funny? Yeah, Laura's going to tell us about that. And then Michelle Quay will be here on Friday. Her story is super interesting. She has lived a life that not many of us have lived, especially based on her body. And so she's going to talk about the importance of self-perception, which at this time when we've had a lot of time to contemplate our own navels, it's a good time to think about how you perceive yourself. And then I'll be back on Monday for Motivation Monday. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about yet, but I'll figure that out, and I'll provide as much motivation as I can. In our time capsule moments in the news today, there is a new website up. I have the URL on the slide. It's cracking me up because the story is you can't get into it, and they just put you in this queue. But it's so you can see if your payment is coming, that $1,200 stimulus. Ironically, I'm sure this website costs much more than the stimulus package, but it's at the irs.gov/coronavirus/get-my-payment. Be prepared to not get any answers. That thing just spins, buffering, as we all remember from the early 1990s. But that's where you can go find out if you're going to get your payment. Otherwise, you should start to see them show up in bank accounts. If you're getting it through automatic payment, if you file your taxes electronically, they know how to find you and they'll put that money in your bank account. If you don't file electronically, you're getting it the old-fashioned way. And from what I understand, those checks are being delayed because they're going to put Donald Trump's name on them. So that will help you feel better, I'm sure. Then there was a very depressing Harvard study that's come out about social distancing. They're suggesting we may have to distance for the next 2 years. The way this distancing will work is that we may have to go through periodic shutdowns of schools and things. If we see a surge in virus, we could very well see a surge in virus as people start to get back together. What we're trying to do is build something called herd immunity. And if you've ever wanted to feel more like a meat suit, just think of being part of that herd. That immunity, though, is important because it's what's going to allow us to be out among each other and back to my daughter getting to see her boyfriend again, right? We need to build that immunity as a herd of humans. And so that's important. But at times, if it gets out of control, we may see social distancing again. And thinking about it for the next 2 years is crazy. I already resent that piece of plexiglass between me and the guy at Togo's, but I get it. I want him to be safe. So it's important. And then finally, in even more bad news, and I don't know why I'm laughing, except that what the heck, that's all we can do now, right? Is just laugh because it's just become ridiculous. A new study has found that and it's coming out of the Twin Cities Pioneer Press, but it's not been checked by its peers, has not had peer review yet, but they are considering that there has been a mutation of the coronavirus. This mutation is it's not great. So I want you to just pay attention to that. The mutation means that we are likely to not have a vaccine that will work because it changes. As you may or may not know, every year the flu shot is different because they look at what they think is going to be occurring in the population based on what strains of flu are active. And that's watching the trends. So we may see something like that around coronaviruses, because remember, this one, COVID-19, this is today's fashionable virus. There will be other other viruses that happen, like the SARS and more, as coronavirus mutates. So we get 19 because it was found in 2019, but there will be more. So prepare yourself. And that creates the wonderful segue to our guest. I would like to introduce Gloria Nayal, who I have titled her topic, Motivating Your Teen Now and Later. The reason that I titled that is that Gloria does this job that is remarkable, is that she is a coach of teenagers, which means she gets days when there's tons of cooperation and other days when there's not so much cooperation, even though they want to be there, even though they want to be on the team. Yeah, sometimes it varies. So Gloria, welcome. And I would love for you to give a little more introduction of yourself as well.
Yes, hi, this is Gloria. So I'm currently an after-school sports program and an educator at a school at Campbell. And I do coach volleyball at the school, and I also coach girls volleyball, club volleyball, high school, that age group, and a life coach as well. So I also do what we call at school. We have what we call guidance group, kind of like counseling by guidance group. So I have a group of kids who I work with once a week, like 5 or 6 kids, and it's pretty much just life coaching them.
So tell me, okay, so kids, I love them. I'm always thinking about kids, especially when they can walk and talk and read and everything. So that teenage years are really important to me. I know you're not with them right now, but when you were, what's hanging them up these days? What are the things that worry them and cause them a lot of pain right now?
So actually, I'm not with them physically, but I do. We have the virtual class.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I do physical education with them every day, 5 days a week. Except this week, we're supposed to be on spring break. I know
there's a concept right there. Spring break from what? I don't know. I guess they just don't have to see you for a week. Okay. But you are seeing them. So
I do see them.
How they're doing during this time too. So what's going on with them?
So I will actually have another session this Saturday with a group of them. So they've requested to continue what we call our guidance group. And I didn't realize until recently with this whole pandemic situation that we're in, that kids, the most ones that are affected by this are the kids. Although the adults are affected by it emotionally, we're all going through something, but I didn't realize that the kids are actually more affected by this because they don't understand. So I've had, a couple of them tell me that, why do we have to do this? It's not our fault. We didn't do anything.
That makes sense to me that reasoning would be still pretty rudimentary, right? Because they're still young and their whole lives have been a lot of cause and effect. I mean, when you're young, your whole life is cause and effect. I did this, that happened, an adult made that decision, I suffered. So I can see that it would feel pretty oppressive to them. Have any of them experienced loss, or are they feeling the effects? I mean, we've been lucky in California, I gotta say. Lucky because we all stayed in place, but.
Yeah, no, none of them has had experienced any losses, but I think that for the most part for them, it's just being outside and being with their friends and seeing their classmates. And they're at a point where I'm done being at home. That's what it is. So now, this past month, just having them every day in front of that computer, it's been a little tough, but I have to make it fun for them because somehow they still see each other. They see each other's faces, and I try to make it fun for them. But at the same time, they have voiced their opinion that it's not the same. And I get that. I understand that,
Oh, yeah. I think I read a comment on Twitter. Somebody said their daughter said, this is the worst. It's school with none of the fun parts of school, because he had a social butterfly. That was me. I was all about, like, my friends. School was just something I did to go see my friends. Like,
yeah.
okay, sure, they taught me stuff, but I always got in trouble for talking in class too. I know that's hard to believe, but it's,
I have a student who said that to me recently. She's usually running away. So when we have physical education during our class, she runs away, she hides, and I'm always constantly looking for her because she's just not into sports, right? So when we play certain sports, she's just standing there or she'll hide. And then just this past week, she said, I asked them, so what do you guys feel? What do you guys think about this? And they said, well, she said, it's not really that fun. I was like, well, why? I like it because everyone's more engaged, everyone's more involved, and I can keep an eye on everybody in all in one screen rather than just in person. I'm constantly trying to talk to someone and trying to make sure that they are actually involved. And she said, well, because I can't hide. I can't run away if I don't want to do this. Now I actually have to do the work. And she didn't think that, she thought it was more fun trying to play hide and seek.
interesting. So
Yeah.
suddenly the accountability's there in a whole different way. Like she can't game it. You
Yeah.
have to show up.
Exactly.
I kind of love that. So how have you been motivating these guys? You have girls, right? For the most part.
For this school, I have both boys and girls.
So what's motivating them? You can say
Um,
in general or right now. What are you doing to help them to come back every day? I mean, really, it's got to be
yeah.
tough.
So I have to change. So it's a little bit different now with having to do the class online or virtually. And we can't play sports obviously together. So I have to come up with certain workouts that'll be fun for them. And I have names for them, like I have one workout, I call it an inchworm, but it's just because these are middle school kids. And
Oh, the worst. I mean, the best, but the worst. Oh, yeah.
So you hear a lot of like, what is that? Oh, what is this? What are we doing? But I have to really keep it going and keep trying to make it fun for them. And what I have found out is to make it fun for them is I have to be involved myself, meaning I have to do the exercise myself.
Okay, so that's really important advice. And I think parents forget this all the time. But you can't just yell at kids. You have to show up
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be willing to do it yourself. And whatever that is, hands-on teaching, I know, yeah, I mean, that makes such a big difference when the adult is willing to be silly, take a risk, to model that behavior that you want the young person to do, right? Even though they might
Right.
not do it because you did it, suddenly you're playing though. It just shifted to play, right? Because now it's, okay, what do you want to do? I mean, at least you're showing up.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to, the first week was a little tough because it's trying to get them to just kind of focus, muting everybody, mute all, and then it was so hard. And like,
That's so funny. I didn't even think about them all having a
yeah,
microphone. Okay.
how do I get their attention? How do I get them to pay attention to me? Because now it's different. So the first week was a little tough, and then I had to figure all this out. What should I do next? What can I do the next week? So every day is something different, and I sit in front of this computer 30 minutes before the class, because then I have to kind of gather my thoughts, get myself together, motivate myself, because I can't be looking like I don't want to be here, because I don't want them to see that face. I have to have this motivation, happy and ready to go, because that's the only way I can get them going. And in that, I'll spotlight myself, and then they're watching me. And I tell them, I'm watching you guys. I can see all you guys, but really I can't see like 3 or 4 of them. I don't know if they're actually doing it. But with me just saying that, and with me doing it at the same time as them, even if I'm out of breath, they're all going at it. They're doing the same thing. So that's what I found out, is that I have to be just as engaged. I have to be silly like them. I have to, in order for me to get their respect, in order for me to earn their respect, I have to respect them for them to respect me.
Right. So it's so interesting that you bring that up, because it reminds me of when we talk about energy levels. Like you can't show up, and for folks that have listened to this broadcast, I talked about energy, that those catabolic energy that really keeps you down and feels like a victim. Like, so you
Mhm.
could have a lot of kids feeling like this is happening to me and it
Right.
sucks
Right.
and I can't do anything about it and therefore I don't have to engage. But the way you combat that is to come into it and say, guess what? Let's bring anabolic energy that's going to be productive. And
Right.
yes, it's happening. And you can choose to make the best of it. You
Right.
can choose to have a good time with us on this online class, or you
Mhm.
can look like an ass, which I know you don't call them out for looking like an ass, but if they don't play, they're going to start to look like that person, right? That
Right.
you bring the energy, they can rise up to meet you with that energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I do tell them the same thing, that they have a choice, and if they cheat, they're not cheating me. They're cheating themselves.
Ooh, that's an adult theme.
It is, but that was actually a big thing, because when I told them that, um, they understood it. I'm actually surprised that this middle school kids, I have sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. In fact, actually I have fifth graders also. They understood that when I said, I may not be able to see all of you doing it right now, but if you're cheating, you're not cheating me, you're cheating yourselves.
So that's a big concept, and that is a pretty adult concept, but I like hearing that it's actually kind of the time to learn that lesson, honestly, is
Yeah.
that right now, because hopefully we're going to loosen up on social distancing, and they're going to
Mhm.
have to start to act a little more like adults. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality. So if they're not protecting themselves, they're putting themselves at risk.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I read a study this morning. Sorry, I read studies all the time, but about the long-term effects of the virus. If you get it, even if you're a young person, the things that it's hurting your liver, your kidneys, your heart, because your body has gone through such a you've been ravaged by the virus itself. It's interesting that
Mhm.
these kids do start to have to look at their personal health and their need to take care of themselves in a whole new way.
At such a young age, yeah. And
Yeah.
then that's one thing that I have to teach them and have them understand, that it's very important to stay active. I have students whose parents are doctors, that I know both of them actually. One of them is a head of the pediatrics in one of the hospitals here in San Jose, and he had he had to be deployed in different hospitals, but he's had 10 patients who had the virus. So has he gone home? No, he hasn't seen his family,
Oh,
and
man.
the kids had to fend for themselves, because their mom was sick and she had to be quarantined for 2 weeks, and their dad hasn't gone home. So the sixth grader and the seventh grader, brother and sister, they had to fend for themselves. And when we offered help to the family, we can drive by, and the teachers will drive by, and if they need help with food, we'll be more than happy to do that. And the kids was very happy with it. But our job was to make sure that the kids are happy and that they can see their friends, and they're still somewhat studying and still in school, and just kind of keeping them busy.
It's interesting when it's, yeah, we're maturing our kids. This is causing the kids to have to mature, which I'm sure after it feels safe again, they'll act out. So parents should be ready for that, because teenagers are
Oh, they're
notorious
gonna go
for,
crazy. I
yeah,
That's what I feel.
yeah, actually, yeah, acting out, going crazy. But I also like that when you told them they're only cheating themselves, you really took away their ability to game it. Because, oh man, was I a gamer. I loved figuring out the way to outsmart my teachers and how to, do things in the fastest way. That was somehow my intellectual rigor, was to do that kind of stuff. But when you end up sitting with the result is it's on you, like you're only hurting yourself, it just spoils the game. You have to, like, oh, the consequences are I'm the only one that sucks. Great. So I like that
Yeah.
approach. I think that's a good one. I think a lot of parents forget, or anybody that's hanging out with teenagers, that once you start playing the game, you're screwed, because the kids are smart. They're going to figure out a way to beat you, and it becomes about the game. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, no, no. They're very smart, and that's what I was saying, is that we kind of let them get away with it, even if we know, we let them get away with it. And I'm guilty with that, because I have let that. I've let them pass so many times, because at times I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hear excuses. And I just like, okay, she doesn't want to do it, that's fine. And or my ankle hurts, or I'm not feeling well today, but wait a minute, you were just running 10 minutes ago and all of a sudden you're telling me your ankle hurts. So at this time I've realized that actually with me saying that one day, it did work, and it got to their head. So guess what? The following week, parents are asking for more time of having PE online because the kids actually found it fun. Now they're more engaged, and they said, well, let's do something different, because they're always in front of that computer all day doing, with school. So being active now, they've realized have to stay active. You have to, and I tell them, you have to get your blood flow going. You have to have your heart rate up. You have to do this, do that. Or would you rather just sit in front of the computer all day and do what?
And do what? I know that's the one thing, that the downside of this is we've trapped these kids in their houses, and if they have access to a computer, and I know there's a bunch of kids who don't,
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah, are stuck just using their cell phones if they have that. But yeah, it's easy to just fall into this laziness. That there's so many messages out there. It's like, take care of yourself. Don't overexert. But at the same time, nah, it makes such a difference around here when we just start moving, even if it's just taking out garbage and going to cut down, trim plants. It's something.
Yeah.
So when you compare the teens that are in your classes to the teens that are in your athletes, what's the biggest difference you see between the mindset of those different kinds of teens? I would imagine those athletes have a sense of self-discipline, which is unusual. I mean, that's definitely something athletes typically have that I think we non-athletes may not have, that same kind of self-discipline.
Yeah. It's very, very big difference. I've had to shift my, like for me, I have to adapt. So if I'm at school dealing with, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, you have athletes, non-athletes, some are motivated, some are not motivated. I've had to adapt to those different type of personalities, and figure out what I can do. Then I move on to the club volleyball girls in high school who are motivated. They have determination. They're ambitious. They're driven. Then I've had to change and then adapt to that type of personality. So it's a whole different level of inspiring and motivating those athletes, because they have big dreams. They have bigger dreams of playing in college, and the level is just so much different. So that part, the difference is that one's a little bit more draining for me, because it takes a lot of my energy out of me, but I love it. But I love, this is what I love about what I do, is I love to push them, because when I see potential and they see what their capabilities are, I'd like to keep pushing them until they realize that I can do this.
Now that's interesting, because I think when you're talking about teenagers that are really focused on performance, even the kids who study a lot or whatever, those performance-driven teens, how much do you need to watch that they aren't not living their lives because they're so focused on their goals? It sounds to me like you really get to see the spectrum of the kids who are motivated by all kinds of other things, social, all kinds of stuff, and then the kids who are so focused on that thing that they want. Do you have to watch out for that and make sure that they're also, I don't know, having a milkshake and fries sometimes? Or
yeah, I do. So I become like a second mother to all these kids, and especially these girls in high school right now who has so much hope and dreams of playing in college, and they're very driven. And I have to remind them that it's okay to have fun. Have fun and be that teenager that you are, because it's not. I get it. I understand that this is where you want to be. It's all about that. I was once in that place, and I basically what I do is I tell them, based on my own experience and what I've seen, so I have to open up to them somehow. This is, life. There's life outside of this too. It's okay to have fun. You can eat burgers. You can eat fries. You need the energy. It's okay.
I feel like I want that right now. French fries have been it's been a long time. French fries. One of the things you just said, though, and I remember when we first met, what I loved about you, we were learning coaching and stuff, but we were talking about what you do as your job. And I think one of the things that makes you special, and it's, I think, something that adults forget, is to be authentic with kids. And
Mhm.
I think your authenticity comes through. Like you're honest about where you've struggled. You're honest about, yes, that's hard. I couldn't do it, or I had to go through this. Tell me more about that authenticity and the importance in the relationship with young people.
So what I've realized and what I've discovered also is that they need to hear and understand that they're not alone, and that not they're not the only one. That us too have gone through what they're experiencing right now, because they look at adults like they don't understand. They've never gone through this. They wouldn't know because they don't know what it's like. Yes, we do. We were once in your shoes, and in fact, we were maybe even worse than what you're going through right now, because they're more fortunate. They have more than what we had growing up. And so, the struggles, we've gone through more struggles than they did. So they like to hear that, because they realize that, looking at you or looking at me like, well, shoot, she's gone through so much more. And I feel like I'm spoiled because I have all this and she didn't.
So yeah, so the important thing is not to tell them that you've gone through it, but to actually share the stories. Like you were sharing stories with me when we were working together. You talked about how these kids look to you as another mother because they can trust you, and that
Mhm.
authenticity builds that trust. And I think a lot of parents forget, like, they're my kids, they know me, but they don't. My daughter told me all the time that I didn't share enough stories of when I was younger, of the hard times, which I didn't want to, because it's hard. I didn't want to go through all that again, right? It's
Yeah,
hard to bring that stuff up.
it
But
is.
you're able to do that, which is, I mean, you're not a parent yet, and yet you have kids everywhere, right? Like,
Oh no, I am a parent. I
you
have
are
two
a
boys.
parent? Where
Yeah,
are
I have
I
two boys.
haven't seen, oh, you're so quiet about them. Where are the boys?
I have two boys. I have a teenager. I have a 13 and an 11-year-old.
Oh my God. See how, look at, you're so good. You don't even talk about that. You
Well,
just haven't.
my relationship with them is different. And the reason why I have a very close relationship with them is because being out there with the other kids, I have seen what this other kids had gone through, the kind of relationship they have with their parents. And of course, for me as a parent, I'd have to kind of change that because I didn't want that. And I understand also with some of these kids, they are uncomfortable opening up to their parents. They'd
Let
rather
me, let me
have a
check one thing, Gloria. It sounds like your speaker got a little bit farther away. Did you accidentally bump something? Just want to make sure that I can
no,
hear it. Okay. Okay, good. Okay,
no.
so the kids want to understand that you actually have been through something, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and they're not as comfortable sometimes talking to their own family or their own parents as they are to strangers.
You know, you bring up a good point too, because I think that's something that I learned in raising my daughter, is that sometimes the kids need somebody, a different adult to talk to.
Yeah.
Like their parents are going to judge them or punish them or whatever. And half the time they just have an idea, or they made a mistake and they just want to find out, can I recover? Am I going to be okay? So as a parent, as all of us are parents, being able to be available to other kids is really important. And that helps
Right.
keep kids motivated for sure, is that they have other places they can go to get adult help.
And just to listen and understand them, because I know that sometimes we may not agree to what they have to say, but it just, if they do open up about something, like maybe take a step back a little bit and have that pause for a moment and just let them talk. Half of the time, more than half of the time, they just want to be heard. So whether we agree with what they say or not, we'll just listen. We can nod our head and say, okay, I get it, I understand. Now, you don't necessarily have to say anything back or give an advice, but they just want to be heard. They want their voices out there, and that's pretty much it. But as parents, we tend to kind of just start criticizing them, right? And then that's when they stop and say, you know what, she's not going to understand, or my dad's not going to understand. I'm not even going to bother telling him anything. And that's where we start losing that kind of relationship with them, and then they start holding it in and keeping it inside until they just blow up.
That's so true. That idea of just being heard. I mean, we adults do it all the time. We talk to our friends, we talk to our coworkers. We have people that listen to us, and yet the kids, for some reason, we're impatient with them, or we
Yeah.
forget that they just want to tell you what's going on. In fact, it's interesting having this shoulder time alone with my daughter now that, and she's 20 now, but she tells me some of the things she didn't tell me because she didn't want to stress me out. And it kills me because I'm like, God, I wish I would have known. Now I might have gone crazy, but I sure wish I would have known. And it does, you have to be available to listen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just everything.
Yeah, it's all it is just listening. And I, again, with all the kids and with both the athletes and my kids at school, I can guarantee you, and I have told them this, that all of them, maybe 90% of them, their parents don't really know the other side of them, but I do. And they all nodded and agreed with me. And I remember having that talk with them, and I told them that I can guarantee you right now, more than half of you guys here in this class, your parents doesn't know that other side of you guys, but I do. Because I have seen how they are when they're with their parents. They're totally different, totally different kind of person than when they are at school with their friends, or with the teachers, or when they're playing sports. And I've seen the difference, and that's what it is what's lacking is, with some of the, between the parents and their children, are that communication. Because sometimes we're too busy, our mind is always going, right, where we tend to be, I need to do this, I need to go grocery shopping, I need to finish this for work, but our kids are right there trying to tell us something. And can we just stop and say, how was your day, how was school today? But unfortunately, sometimes that's just not, it's not, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, parents, that is so powerful. What you said is that that part of their child that they don't know. And I think parents forget that their kids have a whole nother persona that is their external, the one outside of the home. And
Mhm.
that is such a valid expression of who they are. I mean, who they are outside of your house is really, really important. That's what's shaping their decisions. That's who they decide what kids to follow and belong to. That's where they could get lost. So being aware that they have this other persona, and then being open to it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
don't judge it. God forbid we judged you when you were a teenager, right? Like, don't judge it. Just know that they are this other whole person when they're not in your house, and
Yeah.
that's worthy of respect in and of itself.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard. I mean, I've seen all kinds, and I've seen both sides. I mean, let me give you an example. I have an athlete who is, she's about maybe like almost 6 feet tall. Okay, she's got a really, really good potential to play for college, really, really good, but she's lacking so much confidence, so much to where she would cry. And I'm constantly like, if we're in a tournament and I see her crying in the middle of the game, we have to pull her out. I have to talk to the other coach and says, we need to take her out of there because she can't be doing this. So come to find out later on that this girl had been doing drugs. She's been drinking. She's been, and I had to talk to her. So that's when I ended up becoming this mom and a life coach to her. I've had to put her on the side so many times and just say, you know what, tell me what's going on, what is really happening, because I saw something different there, that this crying and her lacking confidence is coming from somewhere. And what it is obviously had something to do with her parents, who is pushing her and pushing her and putting so much pressure on her. They watch her, they see one little mistake, they give her a look. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you do that? Why did you do this? But why not look at what she's done good? She's one of our best players. She's one of our best hitter. She's killing it out there. So why not look at that? I'll show you her stats. This is what she's been doing, but they don't see that. What they see is what she's doing wrong. So what she's done is she's turned around and started rebelling. And she's only a sophomore in high school.
And she's already blowing herself up, because then if she's, If she falls in with the wrong kids and starts doing all the dumb things, she'll give no you know what's about sports, and then they've lost everything. Both of them, the kids and the parents. I mean, the
Yeah,
daughter and the
and
parents.
yeah, and she's vaping in between, and you know we had to talk to her because this is like a drug-free environment. And do you want to continue playing, or we have to kick you out? We can't, you know, the organization's not gonna let you play. And I had to be very careful with her and take care of her because I've seen a really good potential in her and I didn't want her to lose that. And how do we talk to the parents about this? Because the parents doesn't know, you know, and here comes a parent or a mom talking to me and saying she was mad because she said, what is she doing? Why does she keep doing that? Can you explain to me why she keeps doing this wrong? You know, I had to explain to her the strategy that we have. We have a strategy. Let her play. So I've had to tell her daughter, look, who's in the court right now and who's playing? You
That's
are.
right.
Yeah. And I said,
Not
is your mom
parents.
in there? Yeah. I tell her, is your mom in there? Is she the one playing? She said, no. Okay, so who's playing? Me.
It's interesting because I think, well, being in Silicon Valley, I'm around a lot of parents who expect a lot from their kids and like way too much from their kids. Don't leave time for their kids to be kids. And then what happens is the kid burns out before they even make it to college because they're fried by their senior year. They've taken the AP classes, they've been the athlete, they've been doing this and that. And we just push and push and push. Then we wonder why the kids aren't motivated. In fact, they just say, screw it. I don't even want to go to college. I'm done. Or they get to college and then they just end up raging partiers because they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And this is what they pushed all this for, just to go spend more time pushing. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. Like the new world the new world order means just relax a little bit. Your kids are not losers. They're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to push so hard, and competing for just more high pressure college enrollment is not necessarily the answer. They've got to be able to have some fun or else they're doomed. It's so hard what we do to kids.
It's very hard. I mean, let's focus on the good stuff, not, you know, not the bad stuff, because I think another thing is also that as parents, we start comparing, right? Because we look at all these other good athletes and, oh my God, I wish my daughter would be like that. She's going to be like that. I know she will. So then we forget to focus on what she's been doing good, but we're focusing on what's bad. But at the same time, we don't know what that professional athlete had gone through before he or she became professional.
That's right.
Right.
Right. You don't see the journey, you just see the result. And
Mm-hmm.
the journey is the whole point. That's the whole point. The result is kind of the gravy, but the journey, if it's painful and awful and miserable, what the heck is the point?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that there's coaches like you. Okay, so you're a life coach and a coach. I'm going to open the phone lines in case we have questions. So if anybody does have a question, I'll see you take your thing off mute. I love the conversation about kids and really seeing them for who they are. I think that's so important. And for anybody listening, this is your opportunity to go have a conversation. And the conversation can start as easily as, what do I not know about you that I think would be awesome? Like, tell me some things about you when you're not here. What do you do? What do you like? What are the different choices you make? Gloria, other ideas, questions like that that might provoke a good conversation at home with the parents?
Like starting conversation. I mean, we're looking at our kids, we think we know them, right? We think we know them very well. But honestly, we don't. There's the other side of our kids that we do not know. And the only thing I could think of is really just taking a moment and just listening to them and let them be who they are. Let's not try to change them for who we want them to be, because they are their own selves and they want to walk around and be proud of who they are. But they're lacking, a lot of them lacks that confidence because they feel like maybe my parents won't like me the way I am because my parents wants me to be this type of person. But how about let's take let's sit back and take a moment and think, who is my child? What do I want my child to be? Who do I want he or she to be like? Let me listen to them. What does she really want to be? What does he really want to be? Who is he? Just have a normal conversation, you know, like, how was your day today?
I love it. There's so many excuses now too of cooking together, I find out a lot of the kids don't have these survival skills, including mine. We're learning how to cook because we're together. We're taking time to do some things. So it's a good time to talk. We're
Yeah.
sheltering in place together. It's a really good time to get to know your kids. Gloria, thank you so much for coming on today. This was a great talk. And
Thank you for having me.
I hope people are inspired. Good luck with the kids. Keep going, and good luck with the inchworm. We probably should have had you do a demo, but might have been. Who knows? Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show today. Have a good evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Jennifer. Bye.